Rocket, welcome to the My Lover podcast. What a unique situation we find us in here tonight. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you, Rossco. How about yourself?
Very good, very good. Now, a bit of housekeeping before we start this episode of the My Love of Golf podcast, which is our US Open preview. And as we discussed last week, we said that we would try and do it a little bit differently, maybe take our game to the next level, because that's what's required at the US Open, Rocket. So a bit of housekeeping. We are recording this, obviously, via audio, but we are recording it via camera as well. Young Lockie's set us up there, and we've got, 4 cameras going here. So I'm a little bit nervous by that, but we should be able to churn out a little bit of video, and hopefully for those of you that have fallen in love with the Rocket, you can now see him in the flesh. Here he is. So this is Rocket's big introduction to the podcast listeners in the flesh. And as we always say, people love hearing from the Rocket. So the cameras, they're on. The one that I'm looking to right now is our first ever attempt at a Facebook Live. So we are doing Facebook Live and making some video and recording this podcast. So before we get into the US Open preview, I just want to say a very special thank you. And for those of you that can see on the camera, I'm now holding up the Walker's tin, product of Scotland. Okay, show this camera. Sorry, that was an interruption from the technical crew. As I said, this is a 4-camera shoot we've got going on here. So, product of Scotland. Well, it's actually a product of Port Arthur, Tasmania, but beautifully packaged in a Walker's Scottish shortbread box from Ma Rocket. Ma Rocket, thank you very much for sending over the shortbreads. I love anything Scottish. Scottish golf and Scottish shortbread. I'll even eat haggis. And what else can I talk about that I love from Scotland? I love Scottish people. I'm married to one of them. Hello, darling. So I did say that I would break my month-long sweet treat hiatus when Ma Rocket delivered the shortbreads. So, Ma Rocket, there you go, Rocket. How you go, mate? There you go, mate. Take one of those. Great-grandmother's recipe?
Great-grandmother's recipe, Grandmother Taylor.
We've got the cup of peppermint T2 here, T2 tea here.
Not a plug.
Never thought I'd eat on a podcast live. That's very rude of me, but these are delicious. So, Ma Rocket, thank you for the shortbreads. And we might be onto something because subsequent to last week's podcast, Mike Cocking's contacted us and may be interested in acquiring some shortbreads from Ma Rocket down in Port Arthur, Tasmania, where he stayed there.
Yes, Stewart's Bay. So, nice little bit of linkage. The order is already in. The order's in for the shortbreads. He thought I was joking. I do pay my debts, like the Lannisters, except in the last episode.
Mate, it's not so much of a debt. I think it's more of a bribe to try and get him, get Mike Cocking to come and talk to us. But
it was a unanimous vote on Twitter. The voting poll that I put up on Twitter, it was unanimous 100% for the shortbreads, not the Kiss biscuits.
Anyway, enough of that. Thank you, Ma Rocket. They will come home with us and give us something to break the sweet treat hiatus on. Thank you. So, mate, it's a short turnaround for us to get this podcast up and running. It was only, last Wednesday that we talked last time and conceived this idea of getting together in not the mobile podcast studio. I know, if you listen to this, you'll be surprised that I'm not sitting in a car somewhere in a back street of Melbourne recording Rocket via the radio. But you might think that we're in actually the Golf Channel studios here. Pebble Beach in the background. What hole is that, mate? You're the expert here. 7 hole. 7th hole, the little short par 3 down elevated tee. It's about 100 metres, 95 metres. Really classic little hole. They probably hit a little gap wedge there, 54 or whatever they're hitting. But we've got that in the background there because we're in the Big Swing studios tonight, broadcasting from one of the Full Swing Golf simulators. So after the podcast, Rocket and I are going to have a little look at the holes that'll either make or break the players in the US Open. And we might have a little challenge. We might play them. Rocket hasn't played golf for a little while, but he's going to take us through the holes. And we'll put that on a video as well. So we're trying to bring something, biting off way more than we can chew, but it's a bit of fun and a bit of trial and error, and who knows where this might lead. So, mate, what's the weekend golf been for you?
Aside from just the other events that have been the lead into the US Open, so we had the Canadian Open.
The RBC?
Yeah, RBC. So the RBC had all their players there pretty much. And it was won by McIlroy in a bit of a canter, actually. So he absolutely blitzed it in the final round. So he was leading going into the weekend, and I think he ended up winning by about 5 or 6. So I wasn't paying too much attention to the score. But
what did he shoot in the final round?
62. 62, 61. Might have been 61. I can't remember the par there. But he shot 9 under in the last round.
Where does he pull that sort of form from?
I don't know. He must have tapped into his Players' Championship form or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Because he's been quite erratic. You know, we had the Players and he led into the Masters, and we had all this. You know, I had him as one of my picks going in the Masters, and he's kind of disappeared.
Yep.
You know, since then, and all of a sudden he's come into this. He really hasn't done too much. He's sort of been thereabouts, and all of a sudden, come weekend, he's sort of in the mix, has a monster weekend, and wins it in a bit of a canter.
It was a phenomenal performance, and I had it on the TV most of the day, and I haven't watched the hole by hole, but every time I had a look, he was just bombing something 300 plus, middle of the fairway. A couple of times he missed the rough, putting really well with the Spider Tour X putter. Looked pretty good.
Well, it'll be interesting because those greens there, they're power greens at Hamilton, which they played for the first time.
Yep.
The rough was quite thick in some. I saw Cooch trying to hit just a lob wedge it was about 1.5 feet off the fairway on 10 on Saturday, and he almost had to swing it like a baseball bat, and it just went nowhere. So it might have been a bit of a tune-up for some players. I don't know. I think I'm still jaded after Rory's form going into the Masters. I don't know if I could pick him or anything like that.
So you're not going to rip around the corner here to Elizabeth Street and drop 50 on him?
No.
Right.
No.
Okay. All right. So let's keep talking about the RBC. Couple of my guys. You know I love the Irish boys, Northern Irish, the Irish boys. I don't care what part of that beautiful country they come from. Shane Lowry. I talked about Shane going into the USPGA as someone who's had decent form and one to look out for, and played pretty well.
Well, see, the interesting thing with him being Irish and the USPGA being played before the US Open, it probably really threw him, because it probably would have meant being Irish, probably in a logical manner. Sorry, no disrespect. But it was really interesting to see that he's hit a bit of form, because
You still haven't got it past you, the PGA and the US.
No, I can't. It does my head in. It still does my head in. Doesn't feel right. So it'd be really interesting with him is that he has a tendency to appear in the US Open. So, Oakmont, he was right in amongst it. Even at Shinnecock, he was thereabouts. So there's something about his game that he kind of just does bring to the US Open. So him hitting form, might have a few of the betting people out there. They might be getting really interested in his form going into there. So whether or not he's going to win, but he's probably going to contend, because he really hasn't been in form for most of the year, but he's probably just sort of struck it at the right time. And then my
other man, I listened to his interview with what's her name, Michelle Balionis, and GMAC. I know you're not listening to the podcast, but the accent, man, he's got to get his Irish.
Is it nearly gone? Is it?
It's very, very Floridian, or whatever part of America that it is.
It's all that time he spends behind the bar down at his restaurant,
pouring Guinnesses at the Nonna Blue. But the GMAC secured his place in the Open, which is up in his home turf at Royal Portrush.
The putt on the last. Oh, my God.
The last, a 30-foot Drano time. So it's great to see GMAC qualify for the Open, because he's playing at Lahinch in the Irish Open, and for him to secure his spot, because he's been sort of there, not really there, and he had to work pretty hard to get it. So good on you, G-Mac.
Well, he's been so he won the the crossover event opposite the WGC down in Dominican Republic, I think it was. So he won that.
Yep.
He sort of hasn't done too much since then, but he's lifted. He's trying to. It's one of these last opportunities to qualify for the Open without having to go through pre-qualifying and stuff like that.
Yep.
And he's taken the opportunity, and then he's coming back to the side of his US Open victory in 2010.
Who knows? It augurs well for the GMAC, and I love you, mate. Northern Irish accent or no Northern Irish accent, mate, but we love you. And putting well. I forget the name of the coach that he went to at the start of the year, but I think that was one of the keys to his success this weekend. His putting game was back on track, and that was the part of his game that secured him his first major at the US Open at Pebble Beach, however many years ago it was. So good luck, GMAC. RBC, what else? Any other notables? Brooks?
Oh, it's just
tune-up.
It was just a tune-up. I think he didn't really do much over the weekend. He shot like even par in the first round, 200 in the second, just scraped in on the cut line, and pretty much just did nothing over the weekend. I don't think he cares. It's just like for him, it's like instead of hitting balls, like practice balls at the range, he's like, I'm going to go play 72 holes.
Right. Okay. So RBC, what else? What else have you got from the RBC download?
Not much else. Cooch was there. I don't like Cooch.
Still top of the FedEx.
No.
Still top of the FedEx.
Still top of the FedEx. Who cares? The FedEx Cup.
Okay.
Oh.
Did he do anything? Cooch watches on there. Is his his PR police been out and about? Anything there to note?
No, I don't think so. I think they have been speaking to Sergio's team, seeing as Sergio's team probably are not. They're probably not required at the moment. With Cooch and Shambo taking the spotlight away from Sergio, so his team might be outsourcing their responsibilities or their abilities to the Cooch and the fake physicist.
Now, the ladies, we spent a fair bit of time last week talking about the ladies, and the young lady who finished second, who once again, I think history would show that over the journey in recent times, she probably hasn't been delivering to what we all expected of Lexi Thompson, but she got the win.
Yeah, this week the ShopRite tournament. I don't even know where it was played. I was just paying attention to just some of the scores. Yeah, so she's actually continued on with her form from the US Open, and I think she won by a couple in the ShopRite, which is good. And you're right, it's her talent. I still think about she's 24 and she played the US Open last week, and it was like I think it's the 10th time she's played it.
Yeah. She seems like she's been around forever.
Oh, goodness. So,
good luck, Lexi. Well done. You deserve all your credit and keep working hard because she's a hard worker. So, while we're talking about the girls, segue from golf for a second. Ash Barty, congratulations to you on the win in the French Open.
That's phenomenal.
It's something that tennis in Australia needs, something that the country needs. To have a open champion back on the big stage and bringing the spotlight to Australian sport once again. It was sensational to see. And
well, the telltale. So the semi-final, you think she's come out in the semi-final against the young American girl or Russian expat, who's going to be an absolute world beater. She will be an multi-time major champion winner. She's a gun. So Ash Barty's played her. She's 5-0 up in the first set. She's got her on a break, 15-40. It's about to take the first set. Loses that game. Loses another 5 games in a row. Holds on to force a tie break. Loses the tie break. So you think about where she's come from, and at no stage did she throw a chair. And then she comes back to win that in 3. That's phenomenal.
It was a phenomenal effort, and great to see the young lady so happy and pumped, and big things. Another one that seems like she's been around forever. Not forever.
Well, she has, but don't forget, she also she took 2 years out of the game and went and played cricket.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Because she was always a doubles. You know, it was the
Yeah.
perennial doubles sort of winner
Yep.
and partner for a lot of the girls.
Won a lot of the majors.
advanced
There's only
players
one of
and-
the majors she hasn't won as a doubles player.
Yeah.
So she cut her teeth as a doubles player. But I think her even going play cricket was her just going, I need a break from tennis, the grind of tennis, because it'd be quite lonely and it'd be quite hard.
Oh,
And
playing on any tour, yeah, but that's a global tour. You know, it's not just Europe dominant or America dominant. It's global. So
yep,
you know, you're China to Poland to the States to France to wherever.
Yep.
So
yep.
it's a big thing. Andy Murray, took its toll on our boy Andy. So, mate, preview for the US Open. So we've got two things. We've got field, quality, and course. One of your favourites.
Where do you want me to start?
Let's talk about the field. Let's talk about who you think is going to be in contention come Monday morning our
Brooks. Oh, sorry.
Do you want to have a think? Do you want to have a think about that?
No.
Right.
He's going for the three-peat.
Okay.
He's going for the three-peat. I can't see why he wouldn't be there at the end. I'm going to talk about the course. So it's the course it's not long. Like by major championship standards, it's not long. It's not going to suit a bomber, but he's more than just a drive and gouge guy. And we've seen that. We've seen it at Shinnecock.
Yep.
We saw it at Belle Reeve. We saw it at where they last played, Bethpage. He's still probably one of the longest, straightest drivers of the golf ball. So even if he's not hitting a driver, but even if he does hit a driver, he's going to have an advantage because he's going to hit it straighter than most people. And then his iron play in the rest of his game, he's going to put himself in a position where he just needs his putter to stay warm. Doesn't need to be hot. It just needs to be warm for the whole week. And he will be right there at the end.
Okay. So if you're tipping that it's going to be a Brooks show again, who are the contenders? The other, who are going to be there at the end, pushing him along? Maybe.
So DJ will be one again.
Yep.
He's still in good form. I actually think Adam Scott's been in some. He has been. If it's not again, his putter. If it's not, this is probably one of the few courses where he could probably get away with not putting great because they're not going to run the greens as fast as they normally would in the US Open. So, and if the course is going to be a little bit soft, I don't think it'll be completely soft, but it'll run a bit slower. This might give him one of those chances to be there at the end because tee to green, he is in amazing form at the moment. Then you have the likes of Still Kuchar and those guys are thereabouts. Rory, maybe he might contend and fade or something on the weekend. Tiger, strangely enough, as much as I say Tiger doesn't hit his driver anywhere like he used to, he doesn't need to on this course, sort of like Augusta. Doesn't need to be straight. So he can get away with stingers with 3 woods and 2 irons because a lot of the longer holes, a lot of them are running sort of downhill. So he's not really having to clamour for distance. So his ball striking and short game is going to be paramount. So that's where he's going to really come into his own. They would probably be the major sort of notables. Only other players I could think of from more of the European side. Obviously, we talked about Rory. We talked about Shane. I think Pultz could be the kind of guy.
What?
Yep.
My boy Pultz.
Yep. I reckon I reckon he could contend here.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to see that.
I reckon he could contend here.
His mind's free. His biggest decision is which car he's going to turn up in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
I think he's just got a new one. He's been over back home in UK preparing had the family over there. So I think he's going to be.
I saw he had a barbecue the other night at his car broker's place, and I don't know if you saw the pan around of the video, but this particular chap whose name escapes me at the moment has about 45.
Tom Hartley Jr.
Tom Hartley Jr. There you go. Once again, Rocket bringing value. Tom Hartley Jr.'s got about 45 exotic supercars.
Most of them Ferraris, Porsches, Lambos.
What appears to be in his living room.
Yeah.
Like they're cooking a barbecue in the kitchen.
It's awesome.
And then you pan around and there's 40 cars there.
Yep.
It was unbelievable.
Yep.
So Pultz is rolling in another platitude, another stratosphere in terms of where his head's at. So Pultz, play well. Good luck to you. Go the Gunners.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, they're the main ones. I can't, out of my notes, I really can't see anyone else that is the notables that are, I think, that will be contending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'd be the ones.
So not many of us have had the opportunity to go to Pebble Beach. I certainly haven't. And, from what I can see of the people that listen to the My Love of Golf podcast, only a few in California. Welcome if you are listening from California, and welcome back to the people in Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. But most of our listeners are based in Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, Tasmania. Yes, there are a lot of Tasmanians. Your family?
Yeah.
And Queensland. For those of us that haven't had the opportunity to go to Pebble Beach, let's not get to the course just yet, but what's it like as a destination?
Unbelievable.
How do you get there? How does one get to Pebble Beach?
So how we made our way there. So we would fly into San Francisco because anyone that's been through LAX, that's a hole. So you avoid that. So you go into San Francisco and hire a car and drive on down.
How far from San Francisco to?
Hour and a half drive.
Okay, so it's closer to San Francisco than it is to LA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So we could have gone in. You could go into LA and then fly into Monterey. So they've got a regional airport in Monterey. So you could have flown in that way.
Yep.
But we just fly into San Francisco because we were driving. So we just hire a car and chugged on down. Hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's always interesting when you've got off a 15-hour flight. You arrive at like 8 a.m. You're quite jet lagged, and you basically got a list of questions to keep giving to the driver. So we stay awake on the drive down. It's been quite fun.
Oh, you had a driver?
No, it was two of it. It was just the two of us.
Sorry.
And so he doesn't trust me driving because he's done more driving in the US.
I was going to say, if you had a driver,
no,
because we don't roll with the drivers.
No.
Podcast,
no. We were the. I was riding shotgun, so I had all the list of questions. So it was basically an hour and a half of Q&A.
Yep.
Just so we could get there nice and safely.
So what sort of town is it? The town is Monterey?
Yeah, well, we'll call it the area is Monterey. Yep. So you got the Del Monte Forest, you got Carmel, which is down a bit further.
Yep.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful. So much so that in the line of work that I was doing, I nearly moved to our global head office, which was in San Jose, and we were going to actually base ourselves actually down in there. And then because my role was not going to be just purely in one spot, I was going to do a fair bit of commuting. So for me, it would have been the perfect spot to base the family because of just schools, the lifestyle, everything. It was just, it's amazing. Twice I've spent a week down there and you just can't beat it. It's just amazing.
So you're nearly going to move there and it didn't happen. Jeez. Any chance of getting back there, mate?
Yes. Maybe one day.
Ooh, you heard it here first. might be an opportunity to hit Rocket up for a game at Pebble Beach in the future. Anyway, Pebble Beach. So how easy is it to get on as a punter? Let's call me a new punter.
Oh, it's easy. It's just a public course.
Okay.
So you can go online to the Pebble Beach site. So they've got the combination of all the courses. So you've got Spyglass and Spanish Bay and Pebble. The other courses that are in the area you book outside of that. So like Poppy Hills and places. But you can go on and you can just log online and find a spot.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to book, I think we booked something like 5 months in advance.
Right.
And we were lucky enough to get the first of 6:45 tee time, the first time that opened it up. So we were first off the tee early in the morning. But yeah, that's it. You just book it. Not cheap. Absolutely not cheap.
What sort of, I don't call it a cost, I call it an investment. What sort of investment does one have to make to get a tee time at Pebble?
It's $500 US. That doesn't include caddy.
That's a lot of brass.
It just had to be done.
It had to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see it on TV. You watch the events like the AT&T that's played there. You've watched all the US Opens that have played there, and you just have to. You just have to.
It's sort of like the way I feel, and I've never paid $500 US dollars for a round of golf.
I've done it twice.
The most I've paid is a round of golf at the old course, and that was probably about $250 Australian. It was about 110 pounds at the time, so let's say it was $200.
I'll call that cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But I remember distinctly feeling when I walked off the old course and it was actually nearly dark, I just wanted to do it again. I was like, I just wanted to go out and do it again and keep doing it until I couldn't do it anymore. But is that how you felt?
Yeah, so we would.
So you had the whole day. Yeah, like you played at 6:45 and then you were finished by 10.
Yeah.
Or
not quite.
Whatever. Yeah,
we took our time.
Yeah.
So how my mate and I planned our trips, we would only once did we play more than 18 in the same day. We only did it once because all the other times we planned it out so we play early in the morning. So then we would be done by lunchtime. We sit down and we'll review and decompress the round, the course, more specifically, over lunch and just whatever the outlook was. And then from there, we'd go back, say, to where we're staying. We'd stay at Spanish Bay. And that place is amazing. We'd go there. We'd just maybe go and have a dip in the pool, chill, and then go down to the Spike Bar, which is one of the most amazing bars you'll ever find on the planet. And that's what we did every day for like a week.
Still paying off the loan?
No. That said, I haven't been able to go back for the last few years.
So, all right. So, what are the guys going to be faced with this week? Now, a lot of us have seen Pebble Beach, and maybe you've even played Pebble Beach on a simulator type environment, like the one we're sitting here from Full Swing Golf, courtesy of Big Swing Golf. Thank you very much for letting us use the studio. It's a nice change from a coldness in Navarra. What are the guys going to face? What are the holes that are going to be, the ones that sort the cream from the crop?
Well, first of all, the course, it is hard. So if you go by rankings, so from the best courses in the US, it's ranked number 6, and rightly so. But then there's another ranking which they haven't done for a while, and it was the toughest courses in the US, and they do that through their slope rating and all these other things. The last time I think they did that for Pebble was 4th out of 75.
Right.
It's a tough golf, and I looked at that, and anyone would see it and they kind of go, oh, I don't quite get it. But until you actually play it, then you understand actually how tough it is. So we're playing it in not US Open conditions, not even tournament conditions, and we played it on a day where there wasn't a lot of wind. The fairways are not that wide. The rough can actually be quite gnarly. The bunkers in some places are quite deceptively deep. The greens are tricky because especially with the POA. And that was the first time I got to experience what grain was all about in terms of the grass grows towards the water. That's the way the ball's going to break. And then the last thing is the greens. They are small. Like, they are postage stamps. They're literally small. So then if you think about you bring a US Open to that course, so all of a sudden the net fairways are going to get narrower. The rough's going to get a lot thicker. And then on top of that, the greens are small and they're going to cut them low. So the grain's not going to have much of an impact, but they're going to be slick, but they're going to be small.
Mm.
So ball striking is going to be still at a premium. And if you think about the people that have won there, they're all good ball strikers. Or on top of that, had an amazing short game. So if you go Jack Nicklaus in 72, Tom Watson in 82. Jack was contending there as well. 92, you had Tom Kite. Then you go 2000 being Tiger, who won by 15 million shots. And then 2010, you had McDowell. But in the leaderboard in 2010, you had the likes of Ernie Els, Davis Love, Phil Mickelson, etc. with the McDowell win. So you can see that that event, that course, it's not purely a bomber's paradise. So it's just going to be one of those ones where there's early holes is where they're going to make. That's where you're going to make most of your birdies. But the middle part of the course.
So middle part being post 7, I'd imagine.
Yep. Post 7. So if you go 8, 9, 10, the last of the water holes.
Yep.
Then you go 11, 12, 13, 14. That stretch of holes there.
So they're a little more the inland holes.
Yep.
Yep.
So you go them along the water, then you go 11 goes back up the hill,
yep.
And then you go and then 12, 13, 14 go back across the back part of the property. And the outlook in there is some of the most ridiculous houses you'll ever see on the planet going up the right-hand side of those holes. Digressing a little bit. I'm just visualizing playing there again. But that stretch of holes is where the tournament, I think, will be won and lost, because you come off 7, you can come off, a lot of the shorter holes, you might come through there a couple under, you get to 8, and 8 is this, that's the first, I call it the punch in the mouth, because it's uphill, blind tee shot, you're aiming at a rock that's sort of just in the top of the fairway. The fairway runs out at about 230. So when we were playing there, we were playing a forward tee. I hit nothing more than a 3-iron. You can't hit anything. There's no woods or drivers, because right at the end of the fairway is the ravine. And then from there, you still got a long shot in, downhill to a green on an angle that is probably one of the smallest greens on the course, over water and trouble everywhere. And then you add wind.
Sounds like a piece of cake.
And that's the first hole of the next ones.
Yeah.
And then you go 9 and 10, hugging the water. A lot of slope in the fairways, a lot of trouble left and right, a lot of trouble around the greens. And then what will happen is that players might get through those 3 holes, and they get to 11. 11's a short one going up the hill, bit of a blind tee shot. And if they actually think that they've got through the worst of it, they don't come undone on that one very quickly. All right. You miss your tee shot in the wrong spot because it's blind. Then all of a sudden you hit out of the rough to a very narrow green on an angle. And if you miss it long, you're dead. You could make 5 or 6 there very, very quickly. And then you go 12, the par 3, to a really small green on an angle. 13 seems like a short par 4, but it's just sand everywhere. And then 14, which is the par 5, and it's on the card, it's actually rated the hardest hole on the course. Having played that hole, and after I walked off that hole, I understand why it's the hardest hole on the course. I did really well to make double. It tore me a new one.
How did you make double?
You bite off more than you can chew.
Right.
Drive it in the bunker, get it out, still have a long third shot in, and then instead of just trying to lay it up and then hit another 4th shot in and try and make a par, at worst bogey, went for it.
Yeah, right.
You don't go for it on that hole. So that stretch of holes, that stretch of 7 holes, that is where if you can walk out of those stretch of holes even par, I reckon you'll pick up 2 to 3 shots on the field.
Right. Any other little scary points? In the closing holes, that was it the 17th? Is that a
17th? That probably won't be as scary as what it was last time they had the US Open there. They had to redesign the green because you couldn't actually land it on there.
Yeah,
like
right.
you, even if you're dropping it, everything was just bouncing over.
Over the back.
Yeah, I think the only player that hit the green was because their ball landed in the rough,
right,
short, and ran on.
Yeah, I remember that.
But then even 18's hard because there's a tree out there, and if you're behind that, do you try and chip it over it, hook it around it, hook it out of bounds and around, or do you take it out over the water and then cut it back into the fairway?
It seems to catch a lot of players. That it seems fairly straightforward, but that water all the way down the left there does catch a few people out. I think it was Jason Day that made like one of the most miraculous par fives there. Hit it in the water twice or something like that. And then got it up and down or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But do you remember that?
No,
it was. I think it might have been the Pro-Am at the start of the year, or somewhere. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So what else? Anything else about the course that you want to digest?
No, it's just going to be tough.
What was your best hole when you played there?
Best or when you say best,
what did you play the best? What did you make was there a hole that you made a significant birdie on?
Well, I missed a few putts, and I was actually 2 under through 7, and I'd missed a few putts in those first few holes.
Just to digress on the putts and the POA, how much do they say that the POA grows between the morning when they're freshly cut with the toros or rainbirds? How much does it grow by, so this is interesting, for those of you who watch Pebble Beach, the Pro-Am or the previous Opens, you'll hear them talk about the grass and you see them putt and the ball in the slow-mo putting cams, bouncing around and bobbling around. And this POA grass, which, a lot of golf courses have in Australia, have POA on it, and it's more of a pest.
Yep.
Just to talk about the, the greenkeeping aspect and the, what's that big word you used last week about?
Agronomy.
The agronomy aspect. The brother's a greenkeeper, not me, mate, sorry. The agronomy aspect. POA is a grass that is a weed, essentially. And here in Australia, greenkeepers spend their entire careers trying to keep it out of the greens.
Yep.
And
spray it out,
and changing greens and losing greens to POA. But a number of those courses in the States, the whole green complex is POA.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful surface when it's freshly cut.
Yes.
And can be very slick.
Yes.
With the grain and obviously down grain but it grows. It's as a weed does in the sun. It grows millimeters during the day.
Yeah,
and it's very susceptible to, even in the days of soft spikes, to spiking up and leaving spike marks. Now that's not going to be as much of an issue now because you can pat them down thanks to the rule changes, but it does create a bit of a challenge for the afternoon players.
Well, maybe the rule change might actually be, it might actually help on those greens there.
Yeah.
Because and considering the weather they've had, I don't think they're going to be as concerned about potentially overwatering them so they don't lose them or anything like that. Because if anyone goes back to sees any footage of the 92 US Open, those greens were rock hard and they were horrible.
Right.
They were horrible. How Tom Kite won is just, he played awesome, but those greens were terrible.
Just on a side note, the way if you're watching on the video, you would have seen it, but Rocket's just listed off the winners of the US Open at Pebble Beach for the last 40 years without a glance at any notes, and talked about the vision from, what year was that? 92.
Yeah.
Which to me, sitting here listening to you, you recall like it was yesterday. It's amazing, mate. It's amazing. Really, really, really good. So once again, bringing a lot of value. Thank you very much, mate. Anything else about Pebble Beach that you want to sort of digest on?
No, I still think that, and I'll go back to Brooksy when he talks about why it's easier for him to win the majors, and he said, and he goes through went through his little soliloquy on what plays he can out. All the ones that are the lower ones. So if you think the US Open, half the field comes through qualifying, so the local and sectional qualifying. Then you've got another 5 or 10 that might have got special exemptions. So Jim Furyk, Ernie, and can't remember who else. Someone else got a special exemption for this one. Then you've got the other players that are exempt, but they're probably not at that top echelon. So really, his competition is out of the field of 150. He's got like 30. But then I would probably even go even further, narrow that even further, because I already saw the videos of some of the players that
taking drops and
dropping a ball in the rough and going, oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Like the USGA are living rent-free in these players' heads. Like if you turn up to a golf course and you're complaining about the rough already,
go on.
like just pack up.
Yeah.
Like just just pack up your bags, withdraw, give it to an alternate.
Yeah.
Because you're already done. Like you're already seen the Patrick Cantlay one, which I think is funny because that was on the side of I think it was the 8th, might have been the 9th hole. And if they actually didn't have any rough, if his ball went there, would have went in the water.
Yeah.
And he would have had less of a chance of getting up and down than dropping it in there. Like,
can't win.
Idiotic. Everyone knows US Open is about narrow fairways, long rough, playing a course that they don't play normally through the whole year. So if you're not mentally going into the game, into that tournament, playing, knowing that it's going to be long, it's going to be arduous, greens are going to be fast, they're going to be hard, rough's going to be high. If you're not already mentally prepared for that, like you stand on the first tee, you know, the checkered flag is already waved before you've even hit your first tee shot. Yeah. And especially at that course. Yeah. If you're not going to that course thinking about like being mentally prepared, like it'll rip you apart.
So who are going to be the ones that contend at the end of the week? Brooks,
DJ. I actually do think Lowry will be. I don't know. It'll be one of those form things.
Do you give my boy G-Mac any chance of being up there?
Yeah, maybe.
Adam,
definitely.
Any other? So Pulitz, we said. Any? Yeah. What about Francesco?
Don't know. I reckon him dumping it in the water at the Masters. He hasn't done much since then. I think it's
Spiethy.
Maybe, but he's not driving it very well. His short game is on fire, but his driving is horrible. He's hitting it all over the place.
JT.
No, he's still just coming back from his wrist injury.
Yeah. J-Day.
I don't know. Maybe if they've got a, mobile chiropractor just roaming the fairways. He's got Stevie on the bag.
I was going to say, let's talk about bagmen. There's two of note.
Stevie Williams is back on J-Day's bag. Or not back on. He's on J-Day's bag.
Can you believe it?
Unbelievable.
Is this a comeback Renaissance tour for Stevie? Is he back?
Oh, I think so. I think he might be done with the rally cars. I don't know. I don't know.
Is he back has Jason called him back, or what's your mail there?
Well,
he's never caddied for Jason before.
No, he hasn't. I actually think this is part of. So how I read it. So there's a couple of the obviously Aussie riders, almost like how close are they to the Jason Day team? I think they are quite close because I've seen a few things when a few of the guys that I follow in the US get stuck into Jason Day about his back, and so that they become quite defensive of that. So they must be quite close to the Day camp. And they kind of alluded to this was part of the team move to get him back to number one. Mm-hmm. So it must be one of those things where, he's got through a lot of the family issues, right? So I think they've had number 3 now. They obviously had some issues before. His mother's health's a lot better. So it might be that resetting, are we going to continue to languish down here, or are we just going to move forward?
Yeah.
He couldn't have Colin on the bag much longer because it's his coach, right?
Yeah.
That runs its life. And then he's had his 2 best mates on the bag, but they're his 2 best mates. Are they the top? Are they the right person to be on the bag? When you're at this level.
Some have proven, proven that works, and that probably as a long-term strategy, it's a stopgap at best.
Yeah, exactly. And then you look at someone like Stevie Williams. Is he the right man? Especially if you think of it from a mental standpoint, and someone to probably kick Jason in the butt, because he probably does need that from time to time.
Yeah.
He's probably the right man for it.
Yeah.
And they probably put the call out and just said, look, we want the best. And maybe this is because the other thing as well that might work in that favour is because Jason doesn't play a massive amount of tournaments in a year. He's very selective. that might work for what Stevie wants. Would probably want a little bit more flexibility to be back at home.
Yep.
And with a lot of the changes to the schedule, with the moving of the majors pretty condensed now, there might be this pocket where he goes, I'm going to do it from here to here.
Yep.
And then outside of that, you get your mates to do it.
So has Jason won a Pebble Beach Pro-Am? Is he?
Yes.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, I thought so.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah. So he's won there, so he can.
But he hasn't been in great form.
He hasn't. No. Jace, good luck, mate.
The other this bumper Jace. And the only other person that and this will be the fan favourite, it'll be Lefty, because this is his legitimate last chance to win the US Open.
Has he won there before?
Nope.
No.
Oh, he's won there. He's won there like three or four times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is his last legitimate chance to win a US Open.
Will he be going 2 drivers?
I don't think so. I don't think so. He'll be. I expect him to be fielding 1 driver for his bombs and his sweet cuts, and at least a 3-wood in there, because he's going to need 3-wood on a lot of those holes, I reckon.
What wedge setup will he go with?
He'll probably just have the four wedges, I reckon. Maybe a 62,
64 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he might go deep on multiple wedges.
Do you know this interesting little side piece here? How the PM grind was conceived, the Phil Mickelson PM grind, because he uses that high toe,
yeah,
grooves across the face.
Yep.
He was actually using a Ping I2 wedge, which was very popular on tour with a number of players a while ago.
Oh, that's what he used all the way back in college.
Correct, because it had the high toe. So when he laid it flat to play those
flops.
Phil flops, he believed that the high toe allowed him access to grooves as far up the toe as he could possibly when he slid the ball under.
Gotcha.
Now, obviously, the guys at Callaway have gone, mate, what's going on? Roger Cleveland, what's going on? You're not using our wedges. And he said, I need something when I lay it open where I feel like I've got grooves all the way up the face. So Roger Cleveland said, well, how about I try and make you something? Roger's taken 2, I think it was Mac Daddy 2s at the time, back to his workshop in LA, cut them, ground them, basically cut 2 in half and stuck another bit on the top of it to make the toe, ground it down and took that back to Phil, drew on pencil, texted in some groove lines on the top part and said, would you use this? He played it, said, yeah. And then then Roger went to the guys at Callaway and says, if this is what Phil wants, let's make it. I'm lucky enough to know that because Roger Cleveland himself told me that story when I played with him at Kingston Heath, and that was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had playing golf. And it's not name dropping, but it was good. And every time I think about those wedges, I think about Roger Cleveland telling me that story. So
Cleveland Classic wedges, can't beat him.
He was the founder of the contemporary. Like Ping and the answer putter,
That's what I've had in my bag forever.
We all owe, Scotty Cameron owes a lot to...
The old TA 588s.
Exactly. Mr. Cleveland, he was the founder of the current wedge, I believe. So, other bagman, just on that, and we mentioned our mate from PK, Marcus Fraser. Getting a last-minute qualification spot in the US Open. So good luck to you, Fraser. Rooting for you, barracking for you. But is BJ on the bag for Fraser?
Yes, another member and an Essendon man.
So BJ Goddard, Brendan Goddard, former St Kilda and Essendon legend, also Peninsula Kingswood member. Saw BJ down at the club last Wednesday, played in the group behind us, toting his little black on black Mackenzie bag, and he's obviously just jetted off to the US to catch up with Fraser and carry the bag.
Well, I think it was part of their like little handshake thing. He said if you make the US Open,
I'm in.
I'm carrying your bag.
Well, good luck to both of you guys. We wish you all the best. BJ, I hope you're on top of your game for Fraser. And don't mess the numbers up, mate.
Yeah. Make sure there's 14. Don't need to do a woozy.
Oh dear. So, mate, I think we've given who we think is going to be up there. We've talked about the holes that you think from your own experience, having been there and being the only one of the two of us and one of the only people that I know that's played at Pebble. Given the fans a bit of insight into that, bit of banter. Anything else, mate? There's always something else.
I just think it's going to be. I'm just really looking forward to it because I'll, Brooksy to get a three-peat.
So money's on Brooks?
Absolutely.
You've got in there first. It's hard for me to go past it. I'm going to say Adam Scott.
I was going to let you go top Aussie first next. So is that going to be then? Top?
I'm going to go Adam Scott, top Aussie, and Adam Scott for a win.
Oh, double down.
It's a long shot. But Adam's looking good. I was listening to one of my other podcasts that I listen to, the guys at Playing Out Sideways, which is a very small little podcast generating out of Ayrshire in Scotland. Guys in there are very funny. If you like a bit of Scottish humour and banter, you have to listen to those guys. But they were telling me that their wives hadn't shown any interest in playing golf until they saw Adam Scott. Oh, he looks all right.
He's a very attractive man.
Who's that? So Adam Scott has. We need to see more of Adam on the TV because he does give us a lot of excitement, and his putter, who knows? That's a lottery in itself. But
I actually think this is the greens on the course. They will probably suit him because they won't be too fast.
Yeah,
and they'll be not pure enough. So then, in his head, it should be
it's okay.
It's the green's fault,
yeah.
Right? Not his fault. And because the greens are small, he's not going to have to try and hit it inside 6 feet all the time. And if you hit the middle of the green on this course, you're going to have inside 20 feet all day long.
That's what I reckon with his ball striking and his fairway play at the moment. It's just second to none. So, Adam, good luck to you. Top European, I'm still going to go with my Irish boy, Shane Lowry. I still can't wait for the day that he rocks back into, I think he's from Offaly over there in Ireland, and shouts the whole bloody town Guinness for a week. I reckon that's what he'd do. Go on you, Shane.
I'll go with, I haven't got my top Aussie yet. I'll Poltz on top European.
I'd love to see that. He'd shout Woburn. He would shout Woburn for a week as well.
Poltz top, because you've already got Adam. I'm going to go for the home course heroes, Fraser and BJ show. Top Aussies.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. What about a Smoky?
Smoky.
Or a rank outside.
Adam Hadwin.
The hoverboard. I'm going to call him the hoverboard.
Why the hoverboard?
You didn't see the footage?
No.
So they were showing a practice round before the final round of the Canadian Open, and he was obviously trying to do something with like balancing, and he looked like he was on a hoverboard. So I'm just going to call him Hoverboard Hadwin.
I saw him chipping. I saw him doing some chipping practice, and he was really trying to get onto his left side, and so maybe that was it. I don't know, but
no, he's standing on the range like trying to hit balls on this thing like a hoverboard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck to you, Adam.
My outsider. Because he's one of my favourites and it's his last absolute chance, Lefty. I tell you what, there'd be nothing better than Lefty raising the trophy at Pebble Beach. It would be absolutely amazing.
More amazing than this fella?
Do you know what? Tiger's comeback is on its own. Lefty being able to this is like that last exclamation point on his career. You think about the dumb things that he's done to lose US Opens, and also the things that have gone against him in US Opens. He's had it all. Like, there is nothing left in the bank. He's given it all, and for him to be able to walk, if he was able to walk up 18, knowing that he's got 2 putts to win the US Open, and he can stroke it up there and then roll one in, I'd be jumping around in my lounge room like no one else. like no one else.
All right, mate. Well, once again, another classic episode and a lot of information from you. Really appreciate your time. Let's go over there and hit a few balls on the Pebble Beach links that we've got set up over
It's
there.
going to be tough.
And get you back in the game. Not played since March. So thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Welcome to the live world of video.
It's all fun.
Let's do your hair next time, would you?
Yeah, I will.
All right. Thank you, mate.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.